Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. It's truly a privilege to be presenting on behalf of the TIE cohort, so thank you. My name is Brandon Pousley, and today I'm presenting why the EdTech revolution is failing and what we can all do to save it. The future is now, headlines proclaim. We are seeing school districts and schools themselves adopting technology at a rapid pace. For someone in the technology and innovation program here, that's certainly exciting. We now have the ability to deliver personalized, individualized education, interacting with new digital content, video in interesting ways, adaptive platforms. But when we talk about how this can revolutionize the classroom, I can't help but think that I may have heard this before. New technologies entering the classroom, bringing the outside world within the walls of the classroom, enabling students to see things in new ways and interact with content in new, innovative ways. But surely this time it must all be different. We now have interactive, mobile, internet-connected devices. We have online platforms. We have games and badges, right? So what's wrong? Why aren't we seeing this revolution in education? And I think it's because in the past, technological solutions have failed to really change things because they haven't had the transformative properties. But today, I think technology is failing to really change things because we don't have an education system that is open and ready to really embrace the transformative powers that these technologies can bring. In 2010, the National Education Technology Plan was written, co-authored by one of our own, Professor Chris Deedy, which outlined how we can transform American education, learning powered by technology. And it took the bold task of saying, how can we not simply evolve ways of looking at small tasks in education, but how can we really transform education by rethinking our assumptions? It outlined 5 major areas: learning, assessment, teaching, infrastructure, and productivity. In terms of learning, we need to recognize that students are used to learning 24 hours a day, being constantly connected to new content and new ways of learning. This must force us to think about how we can bring the student to the center of the classroom, enabling them to learn in meaningful ways and in a truly lifelong context. In addition, we must recognize that students of all ages are engaging in digital creation and, very importantly, sharing of that content. In regards to assessment, if we're not very careful about if we're not very careful about assessing the things that are most important, then the rest of the plan will fall apart. We need to design authentic assessments that allow us to get at the root of the things that we really want to measure. We must also have this assessment be formative so that it can inform our instruction in real time so that we can adapt, bring failing students up to where we need them to be and close gaps. We also need to provide support to teachers. If they're now engaged in a new world of data, we need to give them ways to interpret that data and ways to make it actionable so that they know how to apply it correctly. In terms of teaching, we need to use technology in ways that now enable connected teaching. Teaching in isolation is no longer relevant in a 21st century world where we now have a global economy and a global world. We need to bring together teachers into professional learning teams that expands just beyond teaching peers groups of teachers, but also to those in the community and experts that we can now connect with in new ways. And we must also provide them the resources to do this effectively. In regards to infrastructure, we've made great strides in bringing technologies into the classroom. We must now focus on allowing those technologies to take center stage and to really transform the classroom in an always-on approach. This allows students to connect not only to resources, but also the community in meaningful ways. We also need to recognize that we have tools that are now designed for digital authorship that allow students to create. Productivity. We know that we need to do a lot more with a lot less resources. One way we can do that is by beginning to have the shift from seat time measures of student progress to outcome and performance-based measures of student progress. We can also rethink how we group students, not merely by age, but also by interest, skill level, and other types of ways. And we also recognize that we need to cooperate on a scale not just between teachers and students, but also among much larger levels, between districts, states, and so on. So where do we go from here? I think that we start here. But I don't think that this is the end point. This is merely a launching pad. I think we need to view mobile devices and online platforms as a way to really harness student motivation and engage them in new ways of learning. We can use games and online platforms not merely as a way to engage, but also as a way to assess in new ways, in authentic ways, real-world ways. And we can also use digital production tools, the platforms by which we share those, in order to harness student creativity and ways to enable them to produce productively in their lives, so that they're not only changing the way they interact in the classrooms, but also the way that they interact with their communities and across cultures. The challenges I outlined are difficult, and the goals outlined in the plan are broad. And I think there's no way that we can get to achieve it unless we all work together and view these tools as lenses to view a lot of the problems that we have in other areas of education. And I look forward to doing that together with all of you. Thank you.